clear on my turn with N.L.P.
That sounds fantastic. You know what else sounds fantastic? I'm tripping over my words. You've got me there because we're about to talk about all things Terry Messenger, the Genius Zone, no less. And it is time to talk about N.L.P. Maybe even throw in a little hypnosis. Why not? Uh, if you could not hypnotize me rather in the middle of the show, I'd appreciate it. That's always a good start. Because if I start doing the chicken dance, just know I'm not doing it on my own. Okay, great to be here with you, quite frankly, Terry. Ready for the show, jumping right into things. For people who are looking on the socials, enjoy. And, of course, if you want to get a question across, that would be fantastic because we love to be interactive.
Yeah,
but let's,
that'd be great.
Yeah, damn straight. I got my coffee. I'm ready to go.
I could smell coffee. I thought I could smell that lovely waft.
Oh, well, it's wafting away there. Right now, we're going to get into the show, run through pretty much what we're going to cover today. And then what we'll do is we'll cover none of that and we'll go off on a tangent. But we'll give it a go. We'll try and start.
Love it. You know what? This is what I love about being on this show with you, Aaron. You are totally ad lib. You can wing it. And I must say that I could probably give you a good run for your money because I'm so used to doing that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But about the chicken dance, hypnosis, I just have to say that, people think that hypnotherapy is when you go to sleep.
Okay.
It's not. It's really about what you call getting rapport with the person's subconscious mind. It's not about their logic,
right?
But if the person's subconscious mind can get on board and, the person who is the hypnotherapist can speak into their life, it can actually elicit certain states like confidence or get them to kind of say things that they may have always wanted to say, but maybe they didn't want to say.
Yep.
And, it's really powerful. I mean, it can make change. You just got to be in the right hands, of course.
It makes all the difference. I think I've mentioned this before, but I've done a show with Matt Hale live on radio, and we took people out of the room and had them hypnotized, and they came in. Now, the person who was one of the people that was hypnotized is a woman I know very, very well, very intelligent, very together. Like I wouldn't think you could control her brain, put it that way, in any way, shape. It's just highly intelligent. Not that I'm supposing that the two are linked, but when I thought, it won't work on her. No. Did it work on her? And it was amazing. And when we talked about it afterwards, she said, I knew what I was saying was wrong. I knew the sky wasn't purple, but for some reason you introduced that to me and that's what I saw. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And even though I knew it was wrong, my mouth the communication between my brain and my mouth, somewhere in the middle, you got in there. Not me. Matt Hale in this case.
That's what it's all about. Okay. I mean, you've got kids, right?
I do.
And when they were little, you can probably remember that there was a time that they would have trusted you with their life. Like, when they're like underneath the age of 4, if you say jump off the kitchen bench, they'll jump. Try doing that when they're a bit older. It's completely different. And then, like little girls, they'll run across the family room floor and they'll skip. They'll just do whatever, and it's almost like they're liberated, and we lose that liberation. So what you're saying about that lady that you never thought would do that is that she became completely liberated.
I'd agree.
She completely let go of all her kind of senses of any, shyness, conservativeness, and all those,
all the
things.
Rules of life, right?
Yes,
being an adult,
because we get bogged down, and that's half the reason that we become hypnotherapists, so that we can unravel all this junk from our trunk that we've kind of grown up, and it's been like we talked about this on the last show, where it's been ingrained in kids' minds and in our minds, and the thoughts and the stories that we have. So what I do as a hypnotherapist is I unravel all those stories. And you can get people like, I think maybe I said this on the show once before, but I had a lady who'd grown up, but she hated her father's guts, absolutely hated it. And I knew, and he was dead. And I thought, and she kind of, she was landed with all his stuff, his estate, and had to separate it. But she had this huge grudge against him.
Gotcha.
And I knew that it wasn't going to go well with her life. And, once she was able to understand from a different perspective that completely set her free of the hatred of her father. And
very, very lucky.
yeah,
Incredibly lucky.
And that's the thing. And the other element is this is a funny story, but architectures are quite known also for their their logic and their kind of conservativeness. They're more about getting down and designing property and that. And I had a guy very introverted, and they were building our property, the one that's just recently been trashed. And basically what had happened is he said, "Oh, you're a hypnotherapist. You mean one of those people that can actually make people turn into chickens?" And I said to him, what are you talking about? Long story short, I kept saying, "Look, I have no idea what you're talking about." I just kept on asking him these questions. In the end, he was clucking up and down in the front yard like a chicken, doing this, showcasing me exactly what he was talking about in front of all the builders. And then he proceeded to say, "How did you just get me to do that?"
What?
And it was like, because you did, and because you could, and because he lost all his sense of all of those kind of those walls and barriers that make people feel embarrassed.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Because, okay, I mean, I do know a few people in the game, right? So, and I don't ask them a lot of questions. Maybe I should ask more. But most people who are into hypnosis don't look at that way. It's all about stopping people from doing bad habits and things like that, and improving their lives or getting rid of trauma, all these sorts of things, right? So there's very little chicken action involved.
Oh, absolutely.
That's more the entertainment side.
Yeah, absolutely.
But hey, that's what gets the publicity, right?
But that's what it's about. It's really the liberation of it.
Liberation of your mind. I like that. That's a cool little statement. Jot that down. Somebody write that down for me. I need that one. Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. Now, a couple of people have come online. That's great to see. Oh, good afternoon, Damo. Great to see you there, mate. Now, I see you've got your popcorn, so you are ready, mate. Actually, this is something now I know Damo, and I think they're going to gain a lot from this, actually, mate, because we were just talking about, obviously, hypnosis and things in people's lives that, you can use it for self-improvement. Now, I'm not saying Damo needs self-improvement. He's a great guy, right? What I'm saying is we all can use the opportunity here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. And if you've got an addiction to popcorn, the one thing I would say is, because I always use that as a little bit of a metaphor,
right?
Because people eat popcorn in the movie theaters without realizing they're putting it in their mouth.
Autopilot 101, right? Yeah.
So that's where you've got to actually unhypnotize people. So while everyone's thinking that hypnotherapists hypnotize, you're actually unhypnotizing them. Really? So, because what happens is, if a person's like eating in autopilot and they're not recognizing that they're eating, then their brain doesn't switch on that metabolism. So the metabolism stops working because it's like asleep.
Okay.
So by taking that conscious effort to actually eat and be with your food means that the rules of the game, like if you do Paul McKenna's stuff, have you heard of him, by the way?
I've heard him,
Yeah, Paul's great. So he's one of my teachers, and he's got a program, I Can Make You Thin with My Words.
Right.
And the rules are, do you want to know the rules?
Call me now.
Yeah.
Yes, go on.
So here's the rules, right?
Yep.
Are you ready for it?
Okay.
Number 1, you eat when you're hungry.
Right.
You eat whatever you want.
Wow.
You eat whatever. There is a catch.
Okay.
You eat when you're hungry. You eat whatever you want. You stop when you feel good.
Right.
And you eat consciously.
Okay. Now, I will actually put my little 2 bobs worth on this one, because many years ago, I was doing something that I was in a public role, right? And so I was kind of a little bit concerned about the old tub. So I said to myself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to change anything in my life apart from, because I don't really eat badly as such. I eat pretty good food, right?
Yeah.
But I eat way late at night. I'm terrible like that. I'm very bad.
I do that too.
Oh, yeah.
I like those late night snacks.
Oh, look, there's nothing like a bit of cheese and some chockies.
I know.
If you've got a glass of scotch, I mean, come on, right? It all comes together. So, but the late night snack, right?
Yeah.
So I can go all day and not eat, but then at 3 o'clock in the morning, hey, I'm hitting the cupboard, right?
Yeah.
So that's no good for you. But I did this thing many years ago, as I say, I want to drop a few kilos. And what I did is I said, okay, I'm just going to consciously, I'm only going to eat when I'm hungry. That's it, right? Nothing else. And guess what I discovered? I don't get hungry very often. So psychologically, I fall into the habit of going, well, it's X, Y, Z o'clock. It is time for breakfast. It's this time for late, right? So I would eat because, and with other people, and you expect they're going to eat, so you eat with them and all that. So when I was in a situation where I said, no, I'm just going to take this on my own and I will only eat when I'm hungry, I was eating about once every 3 days.
My gosh.
Yes.
And you never, are you sure? Like, because this is where we track back. And so if something happened to you somewhere along the line where you didn't eat as a child, usually it's in your childhood years where it may have been a long length of time. That's when the subconscious picks it up and thinks it's the right thing. But see, half the reason that people are overweight and obese is because they have eating habits that they're not really listening to. So you might think, like, did you listen with your stomach or were you kind of listening with your monkey mind?
Look, I heard it growling a bit. It made some noises. There's no question. It wasn't silent. But a couple of times, like, all jokes aside, it would growl and argue with me. But then it would, when other people can hear it, you got a problem, right?
Yeah.
But it's I'm going to mic it up in a minute. But anyway, I would find that several different things. Just that it goes away very quickly. So that need for that hunger disappeared very, very quickly. So when I did that, well, I lost 11 kilos really quickly. Okay. And that was, great for me. Now you talk about times you didn't eat. Back in my racing days, I was always conscious of weight. So I behaved myself. And sometimes I wouldn't tell anyone and I would stop eating for a substantial amount of time. So, one time I didn't eat anything at all except for water and coffee for 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Really good
but
for you.
But you know what your body's doing. It's going into autopilot shock and it's holding on to every bit of sugar and stuff so it can, and it's actually making it worse.
Well, this is why I'm not a dietitian. This is why I work in radio. Because honestly, my advice is terrible advice. I'm saying that, these things, well, look, I'm sitting here right now and all the weight's back and then some and then some. So these things are not sustainable, right? Unless you do it properly. And I would gather that, like, using this as an example, I mean, hypnosis wise, you could break that habit.
Without putting you to sleep. Like even asking you a question such as, hey, Malloy, what are you holding on to?
Oh, well, like I've said to you before, I have more baggage than Heathrow. So I really do.
I shouldn't laugh at that.
What am I hanging to? I am terrible. I really am.
Okay, so your baggage, right? I love that word because that baggage you just stated is the baggage. See, that's just a bodysuit.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, like I don't see you being big, for example. And I'm not just saying that. And I found that with majority of my clients because usually if I could see their soul and I could see that they were actually had the potential to be trimmer, I wouldn't, it's not that I saw them trim, it's just that I didn't see them being obese or how they felt. So, it's always about this is a bodysuit. And, a lot of it is covering up. It's a protection. It's kind of like I'm holding on. But, one of the things is when you understand what you're holding on to and when you can release it.
Well, this bodysuit of mine, I'm a car guy, so I would tend to think maybe I'm working on the Michelin Man. I don't know. That could be it. I don't know.
You do not look like a Michelin Man.
I don't. But no, look, these things, and this is, look, when you're uncomfortable about something or something you're unhappy with, you'll often joke about it. So, and I find it quite easy and to be flippant about the fact that I'm carrying way too many kilos. Forgetting about, because I don't care about the look or anything. I care about your health.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, you want to look after yourself. So this is good. Like friends who are smokers. I've been very, very lucky in life. Never been a smoker, right? Just never been my thing. But I've seen friends struggle unbelievably, right?
It's a hard one.
Oh, yeah. But I have seen through hypnosis they've been able to give it up.
Yes.
And that impresses me.
But they give up a whole lot of stuff.
Right.
Like I had a series of a lot of fly in, fly out guys that used to come in for the hypnosis for the quit smoking.
Right.
And one of the girls, a guy's girlfriend said, "Oh, go and see Terri." He comes in and he's like, "You're not even talking to me about my habit. You know that I'm addicted to cigarettes,
Yep.
right?" I'm like, who gives a rat's tail about that?
Yep.
That's not what it's about. It's why you're doing it. When did it start?
Mm-hmm.
Where did it come from? And what exactly was it that the subconscious mind went, "Oh, that's good." The whole, because they do that. And then it gives them that respite. And you can't tell them how bad it is. Like even the worst of people, I could not tell them. The moment you try and tell someone how bad they are, their subconscious mind's doing this.
Defense 101, right?
It's going like that. So you've got to literally get on the side of the subconscious mind, even if they're an axe murderer, and understand the reason that they're doing exactly what they're doing. And when you can understand that, and then you help them understand it, it's like the subconscious going, "I'm listening."
Yep.
Whereas if you're going, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that," then there's this great big wall that's going up.
You're just all of a sudden you're naughty.
Yeah, that's it.
I tend to think when it comes to smoking, right? It's been my experience that as a guy who's hung out with a lot of smokers, like the social element's a big part of it, right? So I will go out, if it's smoker, I'll hang out with smokers because quite frankly, most of them are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, they've got a lot of stories, they've got time to talk about it. I will actually, talking about it, I see more comments coming in, and I want to mention this because I love interaction. I love this. I love what we do here, being able to talk to people. Now, Josh has said that he doesn't mind his meat suit. Well, mate, lucky you.
Go.
Well,
Own it.
Judging on the picture that he's got actually attached to his name there. I love that, Josh. That is, mate. That's your brand right there. That is great.
Yes.
I'd be curious though, while we're looking at the screen and the comments coming through, if you feel that you'd like to, if anybody would like to put through an issue that they'd like to talk to Terri about, that would be really wonderful.
Yeah.
We don't have to go too
We'd
deep.
love that. No, we would. We would love that.
We can go deep if you like. No worries at all.
I mean, if I can put it out there on Facebook, social media, that I'm going to give a 10-minute free session to people when they call me, we can do something even in a couple of minutes. We can help them out. We can answer some questions. So, yeah, I'm all about that.
We've all got issues, right? We've all got things that are holding us back.
Yes.
So whatever, it doesn't matter how together you think you've got your life.
Yeah.
There's always a little cleanup aisle for, right?
Exactly.
So
remember last week's convo? How could we ever forget that? I don't think the world will, that anybody that listened would ever forget that. But even all of that stuff that was going on for you, there was a higher purpose.
Damn straight. And you've got to focus on that. There's the light at the end of tunnel, all of the cliches, but there's got to be a reason you do these things.
There is.
You can't, and we do, and I do from time to time, you dwell on those negative, but ultimately you've got to go to yourself. These things have been sent to test me. These things have been sent to make me a better man.
Unfortunately, you keep passing the tests, though.
Oh, well, I need to start failing at a little bit because maybe that'll help. But, look, I've always stuck by this, okay, that you have to turn a negative into a positive.
Yeah.
All right. Back in my rallying days, if I tore a corner off the car and I'm driving down the road on three wheels, literally on three wheels, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you can go, that's costing a fortune. This is the end of the event, all that, right? And you can get very angry, and you do, because the red mist is going and there's a lot of anger and emotion. But the other side of it is, no, I'm going to drag this thing home, and I'm going to, and I don't care if I finish last. I am going to get to the finish, right?
Yeah.
So you change your target. Your target might have been winning the rally or winning the class or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
And now, the achievement is a very personal one.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this broken car and I'm going to get it there.
Yeah. You know what that's called? That's called away motivated.
Okay.
So away motivated means that some people are toward motivated. It means like if you're talking to a child, you might say to them, if you do this, or you clean up your bedroom, or you're going to get this. But the other child that is away motivated, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. So they're more motivated by that. And that's a really important piece to know, to know how to speak to people, because some people are towards while others are away. So
how do you identify that?
You'll hear it in their language, or if you get to know them really well enough, you'll come to know that what moves them and shakes them. So you'll notice that, you know, I mean, firefighters, for example, classic.
Yes.
They are definitely away motivated.
Right.
So they're like, right, you know, the chips are down, we're going in, we're going to save lives, and we're doing it. But you get someone toward motivated, that would not be the right job for them. So I'm actually away motivated myself, believe it or not, even though I'm quite an optimistic person. But you know, and it's interesting, like you watch these tennis players. I don't know whether you watched Wimbledon, but we just had
a little of it,
well, my mum, who's an absolute tennis fan, I'm not into tennis that much, but she said that Carlos Alcaraz looks like my son. So I took an immediate shine to him, and he cleaned up. But he did.
Yeah,
he did.
Novak. And like, and didn't sneak in there. He absolutely, nailed
But
it.
do you see their tactics? They're really psychological. They've got coaches, and like they'll use scare tactics with each other. They'll even, like, I liked Alcaraz. He used to show his teeth and go, I said, no, my son doesn't do that. John McEnroe, I don't know, people might be too young for him, but
no. We all remember
he had this thing where he'd flick his hair like that.
Right. No, I don't remember that.
And he did. He had a ponytail, right?
Yeah.
And he went down in the, you know, at some part of his career, and he was with Brooke Shields, and he ended up getting coached by Anthony Robbins.
Right.
And Anthony said, what's this about anyway? Because he takes notice, and he goes, you know, when I'm doing that, that's when I'm hyping up. That's my anchor. That's what gets me going. But what was happening is he was losing games. And the more games he was losing, he must have been toward motivated in this case. So he wasn't activated like you, where I'm going to make sure this baby goes. But it was more like he kept revisiting that in his brain, and it was actually making his game worse and worse and worse. So he needed to change his state and get into the mindset of this.
No, that's really interesting, because like certainly in my experience in motor racing, anger is the worst possible thing you can feel, because anger slows you down. Because then what you try to do is you try too hard, you brake too late, you go on the throttle too early, you start making mistakes, and by trying too hard, you literally slow yourself down. When you're incredibly calm, and when it gets a beautiful flow of effectively classical music, and that's very real, you fall into this zone where that everything is slow and everything is graceful, and you're a lot faster. So when you make, say for argument's sake, if you make a mistake, the thing you need to do very quickly is get over, like and you're angry at yourself internally, but you've got to burn that out really quickly. And then like within 50 meters, that has to be gone. You'll never get that time back. It's gone, disappeared. Psychologically put it in a box and move on with life. And then you need to get back to that beautiful calm as quickly as possible. So that, I mean, and I love the psychological side of any sport. Quite frankly, the psych part of it is such, I think it's probably the biggest part. Now let's look at some of the comments coming through. Damo, you love watching tennis. I remember Sharapova as well too, mate. Okay, so
and all the grunting and that's all part of it, you know. And I really think it's kind of like a lot of it's even tactic. Like Mum said that Novak was wearing a bandage around his leg, so Alcaraz was playing on the fact and hitting the ball in the way to make him run around, you know, unless of course Novak was using that as a psychology as well. But apparently there is a lot of psychology in tennis.
No, every sport, honestly, every sport's full of it, in a good way, that is. All right, now let's look. I agree with you guys. Now, in the Navy, the best team was a mixture of different personalities to get each other through. That is so true, and that goes through anything in life. Obviously, look, Navy guys and girls are just made of different stuff. They're bloody fantastic. Got a lot of friends from the Navy, and you know, I won't start the war between the Army and the Navy here, but great people in the Navy. But they really understand teamwork. Okay, because they're part of a very big team. They're on a ship or whether it be a sub or whatever.
Yep.
No, it's a great point. And that is, again, right across in life. Obviously, at the moment, we're having this fantastic Bogan night that's happening on the 3rd of August. So if you're watching on there, get yourself a ticket and come along. It's going to be so much fun. It's got the Irish
Get
Club.
your flatties and your black
Yeah.
leather jackets or whatever it is, your the jeans that I remember in the 80s because I've been a Gen X. And guys, some of the biggest bogans used to look like they were wearing leather pants, but what it was just jeans that had been never washed.
Never washed, exactly right. I can just imagine when they took them off, they just stand there on their own.
Exactly.
Oh, man. Well, it's going to be fun, and I would love to see.
Yes.
Look, everybody's watching there. I can see, as say, Josh and Damo's names. Come and be part of it, guys. I think you have a ball, but you'll see lots of different personalities interacting, and that's where I was going is the teamwork. Like the people at the moment who are putting that together, we're all so different, and that's why everything's going so well.
Yeah, you've got some great people there. And this is the thing, you can't be a master at everything.
Oh, no way.
You know, when I was talking to my members today and I said, look, for crying out loud, do not try to learn everything inside my membership. Because there's too much. There's too many modalities. It'll be overwhelming. Instead, just immerse yourself in it. Transform yourself as you go because there's so many different modalities. And with the hypnotherapy, I sort of do what Paul McKenna does in the sense that you do the hypnosis and you put the N.L.P inside of it. But, you know, for people who are wanting to utilize it, say in their business or as a leader or as a coach, it doesn't matter. People are wanting to influence people one way or the other. I said it's about getting to know what worked for you. So if you were a person that was totally kind of really held back by a lot of uncertainty, because that can be a really big one. So Anthony Robbins says there's 3 predominant things, right? Number 1, not in this order, love and connection. Number 2 is confidence and a feeling of certainty. And number 3 is a sense of significance and importance. And he said, in fact, when the Twin Towers got, annihilated way back, those people like involved in it, if you look at like everybody, this is the presupposition, everybody's coming from a high intention. They were most more than likely coming from that sense of significance and importance. So when you know that, like if you're having a fight with your partner or you're having a fallout with a business person, it's not about the story, but it's about, well, where are they coming from? They're either threatened by the love connection, threatened by the sense of their own certainty and confidence, or their own significance and importance. One of those 3 things has been compromised, if you want to pull out all the junk.
Yeah, no, I get that. Because ultimately it's all about you. And I don't mean that in an ego kind of way. Like you've got to own your own feelings, right? And you've got to own the way that you react to other people. You know, that whole you made me do this kind of say, no. You may have done something crappy, right? But ultimately I've got the right and the ability to choose how I react to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very empowering to kind of go, oh, hang on a minute. That person was acting out of that, getting underneath all the junky story that people can come out with. And, and then kind of understanding it. And it's amazing how you can kind of turn things around by just that kind of awareness.
Yeah, and look, I think it's an awareness, like I always, joke about being a work in progress, right? I think so many times in my life I've gone through things and I think like, why the hell have you acted like that? Why the hell have you done this, right?
Yeah.
But then I go look back and I think, okay, I might find out that this was happening or that was happening in their lives, right? That the person's in a heightened sort of emotional state, therefore they're not being as rational as they normally would be. Or there's normally a reason behind it. I mean, some people are just horrible and that's life, right? But ultimately, most people, we're just doing the best with what we've got.
Yes.
And sometimes we can be highly emotive and sometimes we can make those bad calls.
Yeah.
It's a great thing if you can just chill out for a bit, get a little Bob Marley in your life, just
Yeah.
Cool, man. Okay.
Does that go with the hoochie coochie?
I think it does. I think it does. There is a big Bob on the wall right there.
Yeah,
So there we
he
go.
is.
But yeah, just take that opportunity to do it. And,
yeah.
I mean, the NLP stuff that you you're so talented with, stuff that I don't understand a lot, and this is obviously why I want to ask these questions, to know myself. This training, this new pathway thing, is this for everybody, or is it?
That's a very good question. It's not, it depends on what you mean by for everybody. And that comes down to three things they talk about with the human brain, which is generalization. That could be a generalization.
Okay.
Then there's a distortion and there is a deletion. So for somebody, it may be that it would be an absolute game changer in one specific way of their life, but not in every sense of the term.
Sure.
In other people's, if they're in leadership and they have to manage teams, because the art of it is really communication and linguistics and even making change, that's really powerful. So that element may be really sensational for a team leader.
Okay.
But then the fast phobia cure that we do, and that's one of my specialties, may not be of any use to them. It might be good for them if they've got some kind of a trauma. So, horses for courses, that's probably how I would answer that.
Okay. Can you explain that last one a little bit more for me? Because you've piqued my interest in that one.
The one about the fast phobia cure?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. That's really interesting. You still need to have the language, but, everybody's been through trauma in their life. You know that. And even though it's relevant, somebody might say, oh, that's not even a trauma compared to what I've been through. But it depends on how that person interpreted it.
It's a scale
for
them personally.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happens is that you'll have someone who's been totally kind of suffocated in some way or other, not in every aspect of their life, but they'll be kind of really impacted by this trauma. And what happens is every so often it kind of pops up.
Okay.
And then they act out in a certain way because of that trauma. So what happens is when you delete, dissolve, and clear it, they are going through a process where, number one, they step out of themselves so they can kind of look at their life like on a big movie screen.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing.
Always knew I'd be a movie star. So didn't, by the way.
You're so born for radio, Aaron.
I think, she just called me ugly.
Movies? No, I did not. Absolutely not. In fact, I saw you with hair.
Yeah.
No, just joking.
I remember those days too.
And it was curly.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't?
No.
Did I just missee that?
No, you didn't missee this.
Oh,
okay. What you saw is a man whose vanity was so out of control that I had a spiral perm.
Oh, my word. He had a spiral
I had a spiral, but how 90s
was
is
that? The 80s?
No, it was 90s.
Okay.
So, at the beginning of the 90s. So, I will tell you the very quick story. I don't want to distract you too, but on that front, my mate who left high school to become a hairdresser because his family owned Michael Murphy's Professionals, which used to be a big chain back in the day, and so he left because we were not doing terribly well at school, and anyway, off he went. And one day he called me up and said, come around for, he was basically about those days he was sweeping up and doing all the basics, and so he gave me the first haircut, and it took him. Okay, this is so 80s for you. It took him 3 hours to do a flat top, right?
What?
Because it was back in the day when they used to do
Who's got time
freestyle.
for that?
Oh, yeah, but yeah. So, but 3 hours. Anyway, we had a great time. It was all fun.
Yeah.
And then years go past, and I've had my haircuts with him all that. By this stage, I've got the very, very long hair. Right? Went down to the butt. And one day he rings me up and says, Aaron, how do you feel about several beautiful women pampering you for 3 or 4 hours? I said, give me the address. I'm on my way, right? And that's what it was, is they had to practice doing spiral perms. So I went in there and got one.
That's your excuse.
There we go. That's my excuse. But it's not the excuse why I went back. And I had more than one.
It looked good.
No, I liked it. I liked a bit of a lion's mane. It was long and blonde.
And it even had the colour like the lion's mane.
I think so too, yeah.
So that was interesting. But I thought, gosh, not only, but also. It's, you know what I mean?
I did love that hair. I did love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But hey, you know, time changes,
Yes.
and suddenly
Yes.
one day it becomes a hat. There we go. That's what happens. That's what happens.
Well, the hat is good. The hat is good. So, it's with the fast phobia cure, it's absolutely incredible. That's probably been the biggest game changer of lives, because I even helped with war vets. War
Okay.
vets will not talk about their trauma because they can't even go there. It's that
really?
bad. But once you
really.
need.
I met people who feel that
They
way. What am I
don't
talking
want to
about?
talk about it. They cannot. A lot of them. I'm not saying all of
No,
them,
of course not.
but a lot of them that I came across, they wouldn't even, want to discuss it because it was so traumatic. And meanwhile, they were in to see me for cigarette smoking or something different like that.
Sure.
And, suddenly I would say to them, we need to actually deal with that, because they'd mentioned in passing that they were in the war.
Okay.
And I knew that they had to release that trauma, because what it does is it actually smashes the ceiling off their limitation, their upper limit, what they call, there's a book written on that. So once that upper limit is smashed off because that trauma's dissolved, and they've been put into a position where not only are they sitting outside watching that as a movie, but you put the remote control like that in their hands. So what happens is, because they've got the remote control in their hands, they're able to then maneuver it, turn it up, turn it down, visually make it go backwards really fast. Put fancy clothes on people and put them in a clown outfit and start doing circus music. I mean, I'm not even joking, right? You have to be animated if you're doing it with N.L.P. But with hypnosis, you can elegantly do it.
Okay.
And do it very just in their mind as a story.
Not really aware of any ability to do anything elegantly, really.
You'd be surprised.
More of a sledgehammer to crack an egg, really. But okay. Okay. I'm loving the comments, guys. Keep them coming. Really appreciate that. Is always very cool to see. And I think that what you've just said about, people with, like, say, war histories and things like that, that they want to basically just improve their lives. What a great way of releasing that pressure.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it impacts them to such a degree that once they can walk away, it's like walking away from prison. They're free. They're able to get on with their life. But in the same way, they're also able to achieve better things, step into their power, become more confident, and not have all that stuff that's kind of clouded them and suffocated them. That's why my heart really does go out to your kids, actually, if I'm allowed to say that.
Well, you've just done it, so you're allowed.
I did just say that. But, because I just think of the impact psychologically that's just going to have on them, until such a time that they fall over the right person that's going to sit them down one day and go, well, actually, did you ever think about it having a different perspective?
And it would make such a big difference. And it's such a hard thing to talk about, but I think there's so many people out there who are in very similar situations to me. There's so many, like, the people that I've spoken to have lived their entire lives thinking their dad's a horrible human being, to find out that it was completely untrue. All of the lies. As I said to you, so I knew someone in their 50s, and all their life, that's just terrible. Like, to me, that's just simple child abuse, right? So, when people have got things in their minds that are holding them back or affecting their everyday life, or even if they're affecting them once a year, who cares? I mean, the fact is, if you can find a way of addressing that situation or that pain, there's a group that are now, hopefully someone online will help me out with this. Maybe Damo would be good at this. Josh, you might be able to help me out, because I'm having a mental blank right now. But there's a group for sirens, and I can't remember. I'm having this, which is basically for people who have come back from the forces, people have from the police as well. So, whether it be Army, Navy, Air Force, or police, or fire department. There we go. Thank you very much, Damo. It's Soldiers and Sirens. What a great group. What a great group. I know how hard the people have fought to keep this going, because this has been a big deal. It's very hard to keep these groups going. Funding's a nightmare. And it certainly seems to be very hard to get funding for anything that's predominantly men too.
That's such a that's so biased, isn't it?
I'm going to take the jab there. I'm going to take the jab there because it exists. But
no, it's prejudice to gang up on men and deprive men of their right to humanity.
Damn straight. And so for the 49% of humanity right there, that this might help. Hypnosis or N.L.P. This might be a way. And
Absolutely.
for those girls and guys, first responders, Vietnam, is that veterans? Sorry, I saw the V and I kept joining. There we go. So it's first responders and veterans combined. Really, really important organisation. So Damo, actually, if I can take it upon myself to give you a bit of a job, mate, if you can hook us up with those guys and girls, I'd really appreciate it. We've been talking about this for a while. Let's get them in the new studio. It's an excuse, right? Okay, why not?
Yeah.
Because they do wonderful work, and I would love to see them have them open to opportunities like this.
Yes.
Brilliant.
That's amazing. That's that's a real heart for people. And I want to go back to the synchronicity or the flow you were talking about a few sentences ago, a few subjects ago. And this is something that happens when people do actually ditch their trauma, when they ditch. And I'm not saying they do. Usually what we do is we deal with one thing at a time, but it's usually a very significant thing. So let's say someone like yourself, right? You've got a few things that have happened over the last few years.
Sure.
But it's not rocket science to say which one is the worst.
Yeah,
and, you didn't have to be a psychologist to work that one out. But the fact is, you know what? Take away that situation, because that is probably a one and only for you in your life. It's not like you had, this happen when you were a teenager. But can I ask if I can really get you to be disciplined here for a moment? But you've got to be.
Have you met me? Come on, jeez.
Just trying to be a bit funny.
Do you know why I didn't end up in the forces, right? Like my dad wanted me to go and join some sort of forces to get some structure in my life, right?
Oh my gosh.
I didn't even want to line up at school. I even used to, when they line us up in the rows, I refused to do it. I'm like, no, I haven't been not conforming since birth. So I'm sorry to distract you.
I get it. I'm having flashbacks because I'm that way myself, total nonconformist. Okay, so if you were to think of just the emotion, right? Just the emotion, and we got deep into that. So it might, apart from anger, like it would start off as anger, right?
No,
but no,
you'd be surprised.
No, devastation. Or whatever it is. Like, that's why I want to ask you that question. So if I said to you, let's just say, what would you say was the culprit emotion, energy behind what that turmoil was? What would you call it? The ringleader?
Pain.
Just
simple as that, like in really simple terms, the immense pain. But the thing is, and I can only speak for who I am, and as a man and as dad, the pain of being helpless to help to protect.
Right? That's the word. You've got it. I just got to grab that for a sec. So it's pain, but then I was going to ask you the question, what did that do? Like what was the behavior that followed? And you just said helpless. So you felt helpless. So what did it feel to be helplessly in that sort of pain?
It was the most horrendous pain you could possibly imagine. And the helplessness that's not the pain.
No.
The pain
is the outcome.
Yeah. The pain is knowing your child is being hurt and you can't do a damn thing about it.
Yeah.
Because your job as a dad, right, is to protect your children, right?
Yeah.
And when you can't do that, your fundamental reason for living is gone.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why the Titanic's sinking, that the men stay behind, okay? That the women and children go, right? Your job is to put the women and children in your life ahead of yourself.
Yes.
So when the people you love the most, when they are at your absolute everything, when you know that they're hurting and you can't do a thing,
you've nailed it. Helplessness.
It's a helplessness, and that becomes a physical pain, and then the physical pain breaks you down so much that you lose the ability you lose a rational part of yourself.
That's where all the behaviors start.
Yeah.
So it's the incidents, the emotion, the trigger, and then, the behavior of how that, and the behavior is like the helplessness. You feel like you can't do anything, right? So it's the exact opposite. So what happens when we're dissolving something is we look for, and if we're speaking to the men, I usually call it weight-bearing walls.
Okay.
So you might be building a house, but what you do is you look for 3 moments in that person's life. So this was the big moment for you, that helplessness. So rhetorically, I would then ask you, well,
can I just
go on?
Okay, sorry, and I don't want you to lose
Yeah.
but I want to give a little perspective, right?
Yeah.
So when I was 24 years old, my mum, who was my best friend, my mentor, my business partner, my PA, right? My bloody mum.
Your
right?
bloody mum.
Yeah, who is who I would share a lot of personality traits with. Died in my arms. Okay,
yes,
heart attack and stroke simultaneously, and died. And I literally fought for 45 minutes to keep her alive. Helplessness, right?
Yeah.
I won't go through all.
You're ahead of the game here. You know that. You have already, like, number one, you said helplessness straight up on the cusp of saying, about the way that the pain was, right? The second thing is you've now nailed that situation that's extremely a huge landmark for you. Like, that's a massive landmark to have your mother die in your arms. And that, again, is a no-brainer. Helplessness. You would have felt absolutely helpless.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know how to do CPR, but I gave it a red hot go. I did all the things that, I'd seen that you're supposed to do. And like at that moment, I can talk about this almost robot-like because I have to.
Yes.
You need to just switch off that section of your mind that wants to talk about it the way it happened. And you got to become the reporter, if you like.
Like the movie screen. You're doing the objective.
That's
what we call meta.
Right.
Meta position.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I went through that, and then I had to do, which I believed was ultimately the hardest thing I would ever have to do in my entire life. I looked at my mum into her eyes, and she wasn't there anymore.
Right.
And I can't even begin to explain what that looks like.
Yeah. See, that's trauma. That moment is trauma.
Yeah. Well, I did no. But there's more. Oh yeah, we throw the steak knives in on the trauma.
Jeepers.
So then I'm still talking to her. Okay. I realized she's gone. So I then closed her eyes. And then closing her eyes, physically having to touch her to close her eyes like that, was, I believed at that point that I will never have a more traumatic moment in my life. I didn't think that was possible.
Yep. So that's your big landmark there. So the one that we talked about last week, like what's happened with your kids, there's that helplessness and there's that pain. Well, that's indescribable what you've just said about your mum. I can't even imagine that, right? So that's pain. So there's two. With the weight-bearing walls. So there's 3 that we would require to deal with. So then there's another one. Now, it doesn't mean to say it's going to be as bad as either of those 2.
It happens in 3s, right?
But we only choose 3. And the reason we choose 3, but people say to me, but Terri, I've got 33,000. Like, what are you talking about 3? So what actually happens is, if you think of like weight-bearing walls, like you've got a couple here, right? So the question I would have to ask, and it would only be fair for me to say to you too, that somewhere along the line in your younger life, again, you would have had a moment of great pain or helplessness, maybe not to that degree, and maybe in a completely different scenario at school. So you take that one, you take the one at 22, and you take the one that's recent. And what happens is we literally, we collapse that. What happens as a result of collapsing, and remember, they're all related to the same emotion, not the same event, but the pain, the helplessness. And so what happens is it works like a domino and it collapses the whole lot. So it's never about making a situation such as what's happened here and what's happened here good, because we know that it's not good.
No, you can't make that good.
But the fact is that, would your mother want you to be in pain now?
Oh, hell
And I
no.
guess,
No way in the
yeah,
world.
you
No way
know,
in the world.
and, you know, even your children, I'm not going to talk about their humanity because they can't help it, what's happened to them.
It's not their
But
fault.
let's
Not
talk
at all.
about their soul.
Okay.
Their soul knows. Their spirit will know, Aaron.
My point that I was making by talking about my mum, because it's not something I want to really openly talk about much, is okay, I at that time thought there is nothing in my life that will ever be worse than this. Okay?
Yeah.
Simple as that. I thought, right, that is my absolute moment, right? Nothing will ever compete with this. When they stole my daughter, and I don't want to single out my daughter because as far as I love all my children, it wasn't the case of that. But the day that they stole my daughter and the way that they did it, actually hurt more than my mum dying in my arms. Because, and you're very interesting what you say, because the feeling of helplessness that I couldn't help and I couldn't protect, could not protect a little girl from being abused because of criminal activity by the people who are being paid to protect her. Like, you've got to be kidding me, right? And that I've never felt so helpless in my entire life. And you know, and the process went on for a very long time, fighting, as you can imagine. So, you know, I mean, that's my stuff. And I think to myself, you know, could I gain something out of this? Well, bloody oath I could, right? No doubt about it. I'm looking up at the screen too, and I'm really glad that Jamo's put this. He'll definitely pass it on, and to come down for the coffee catch up, which I have seen. I've seen the message there. When the North of the River one would be there. I know that they do the South of the River one on different days as well. So I'm a bit more central now. So hopefully I can come down to one of those, mate. Just you let me know, or I'll see it on the socials. But definitely want to be a part of that. And I think that, you know, and I don't want to talk about, like, you know, from the point of view of this is not about me. There are so many wonderful people
Your
out there.
story, though, believe it or not, when as a hypnotherapist we're speaking to like 1,000 people, you know, we might be talking about our own story, which might seem like, oh, it's about me, but it's not. It's actually about the people listening out there that can resonate. Maybe not exactly with your story, but your pain and what you've been through. And see, I would conclude it, which comes back to what you said about the car racing and how you can't stay angry for too long because time is different in that category. And we bend time in this business with hypnosis. Yeah, we do.
It's a really good way of looking
and
at it.
and yeah, we do. We bend time, and you have to. Like, if you watch the movie Flight, and I know this is out of context and it's kind of like, you know, under not good circumstances, but he took some illicit drugs and he was also drinking. And what had happened was he bent time, and as a result, where a normal person like a pilot that was ready to crash the plane would panic, like, I mean, even though they're used to it, he bent time to the point in his mind's eye that he was able to give instructions to his co-pilot and turn that into an uncontrolled nosedive. So he spun the plane. But who's got time for that? I mean,
I'll tell you right now, you can do it.
Yeah.
So, like, as I say, in a racing situation, you've got, in rallying, you've got two people sitting in the car. Oh, thanks, mate. Damo's put a lovely thing there that your story helps so many, Aaron. I appreciate that very much.
Yes, absolutely.
I
agree.
When in the car, you've got all of this. It's a frantic, noisy, violent environment.
Yeah.
And there's two people sitting next to each other with an intercom talking to each other.
Yeah.
And when you're doing it right, guess what? It's quiet and peaceful, and the world disappears.
Yes.
And it just becomes this little thing. Now,
yeah.
And when you're going,
anchor that, Aaron.
Oh man, when you go through a corner, you might be going through a corner at 180 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
Right now, now to people on the outside, you might be thinking, oh my God, that's so fast. When you're in it, it's like, I'm waiting. I'm heading towards the apex. I'm waiting. I'm adjusting my line. Boom, boom, boom. I'm bringing the throttle in, right?
Yeah.
It's very slow and methodical. Now
you slow down time.
You do.
And you know, it's amazing, and how much you can achieve by doing that and how productive you become.
It's so much done.
Because your brain is kind of unshackled. So I want to bring that back to what happens when a person like yourself who can dissolve, clear, and release those three things, for example, so that people out there can relate to their own situation, right?
Okay.
Once that happens, you don't have to, nobody's saying to you to let go of the fact that that was a shitty, excuse me, can I say
No,
that?
you can say whatever you want.
It was a really crap situation to
Yep.
happen. It's never going to be right. It's never going to be good, right? We know that.
We know that.
But your body needs to be set free of that. So what happens is when you dissolve, clear, and release it, you'll probably shift a bit of baggage. Number one, that's just bonus.
Nice.
But number two, you will be surprised at what you can achieve by remaining in your power, like Donald Trump. I mean, he's a way motivated. He gets hit in the ear and he multiplies his popularity.
He's doing all right on that one, that's for sure. I'll tell you
But
what.
this is what I mean, though. You stay standing for what you believe in, for that cause, but because you dissolve the tension from your body, you have more power.
I thoroughly agree with that.
Mm.
And look, I think we're all
done.
No, I wasn't going to say that at all. I think we've all got the power within us, right?
Yeah.
And whatever your capability is, like it's about, you get knocked down, you get back up again, right? Like and it's not a case of, I don't judge myself or anybody else on how people act when they're knocked down. I do judge them, and I shouldn't be judgmental, but I am.
We all are.
We are, yeah, exactly. I judge people by the time that they get up.
Yes.
Okay, because getting up is what it's all about, right? And that's when you really see the character of people.
Yeah, that's true.
It makes such a big difference to my life. All right, well, I'm going to have to wrap up. We're going to get we're at the end of the show pretty much. So, do you have any wonderful thoughts you'd like to? And apart from your wonderful thoughts, how can I get hold of? I know how I can get hold of you, but how can they?
Okay,
people in the world get hold of you.
Thank you, Aaron. First of all, terrimessenger.com, so my name.com. And number two, I have a event coming up on the 27th of July here in Perth at Restful Waters in Bedfordale, which is going to be N.L.P Hypnosis 101. It's going to be very empowering. So that's what I would say about that. Thank you.
That is fantastic. All right, we're going to go to a song, and I better quickly turn the old online bit off. Otherwise, our friends out there in social media land will get very upset with us. But I have have a wonderful rest of the week. We've got through Hump Day. If you want to catch the repeat of this show, it will be repeated on the weekend. So check your guides for that on the old Facebook or whatever the case may be. Terri, thank you very much for your little genius, the whole zone you brought tonight, or this afternoon for that matter. It's Edge Radio Australia.
Yay! Awesome. See you later, guys. May the force be with you, as they say. I like the song, I get knocked out and I get up again. What a great song.